Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army.
Thank you all for coming. It's awesome to look out and see this crowd, to come here and support our great Army. So good morning, Secretary, Mrs. Hegseth, and Gwen. It's great to see you. You guys look great. General Kane, sir, General Nordhaus, Undersecretary Tata, Undersecretary Mrs. Oipol, Ms. Votel, Mr. Berea, Sergeant Major, Garrissey, the whole entire team, Sergeant Major and Ms. Weimer, Army senior leaders, distinguished guests, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming today. And welcome to the Hall of Heroes induction ceremony for Major Nicholas Dockery, Medal of Honor recipient. We're joined today also by three fellow Medal of Honor recipients, Sergeant Major retired Payne, Master Sergeant retired Petrie, and Captain Groberg. Can you please give them a round of applause for being here? Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for being here and just representing the incredible legacy of this award and the example you show for us all. As we begin, I'd like to start by acknowledging Nick's family, including his devoted partner, Jennifer, his wonderful grandmother who has captured all of our hearts this week, even had the president stop in his place as he was walking by to talk to her. It's been awesome to get to know you, and Mary, a dear friend, Chris and his brother, and a fellow U.S. Army soldier, his brother Blake. Thanks for coming. Army families are the backbone of our service. And God bless you for your support and devotion you've shown Nick. And let's give them all a round of applause, please. I'd like to also extend a special welcome to Nick's teammates, fellow members of Chosen Company 212 Infantry who were there on that fateful day. Gentlemen, will you please stand so we can honor you as well. I want to personally thank you, gentlemen, for actually listening to me the other night when I asked you all to stay off the blotter. I have not seen any notices, disturbances in the force. Let's keep that through the weekend, okay? God bless you all. A few of you may have noticed we're not actually at the Hall of Heroes inside the Pentagon. So what brings us here today to Conmy Hall? Well, it turns out the answer is pretty simple. When we did the math, we needed more space. Nick, it's because of you. There's a lot of people who want to celebrate you. You are incredibly well loved, and you're respected. And how can you not admire you? Special Forces officer, West Point graduate. I don't hold that against you. You couldn't get accepted in the Harvard of the Southwest like I did, University of Arizona, but you went to West Point. White House fellow, presidential leadership scholar, Silver Star holder 2 times over, Military Times Soldier of the Year, General Douglas MacArthur Leadership Award winner, and then founder and chairman of the Nicholas Dockery Foundation. I could go on. That's the public stuff. I could go on a lot more. But as of last night, the highest honor that we as a nation can bestow, the Medal of Honor recipient. It's quite the list, brother. It's really no wonder you can't walk about 10 feet without someone stopping you and shaking your hand, as it should be. As the Vice, my role is to highlight the Medal of Honor citation during this ceremony. But as I do, I'm going to try something different. Medal of Honor that he is awarded was a specific time and place. But he's done so much with his life, and I'd like to weave that through this speech today. I'd like you to see who Nick is, revealed by the citation. Every young infantryman walks into their platoon in hopes that they'll rise to the occasion when the pressure's on. I remember praying that I wouldn't choke in front of my men and that I'd do what I needed to earn their trust and respect. And I think it's one of the things that stands out the most to me about you is you didn't have a chance to build trust through a deliberate train-up. You arrived at Fort Carson and met an experienced platoon downrange. It's a tough environment for a young lieutenant, for even the most proficient of them that comes right out of the schoolhouse. On October 2nd, 2012, Nick's platoon and Afghan partner units were conducting combat operation in Kapisa province in Afghanistan when they were ambushed by an estimated 150 Taliban fighters. Nick is courageous. Hearing that a U.S. soldier had been wounded, then Lieutenant Dockery fought his way to the soldiers who were taking cover in a building occupied by enemy fighters. Nick organized and led the force in clearing the building. When an enemy grenade landed nearby, he shoved a team member behind cover, preventing him from being killed or wounded by the resulting blast. Nick is courageous, not just because of what he did that day, but also because of the way he continued to honorably serve in the military, even through times of adversity. Nick is loyal. Although dazed and wounded himself, Nick went to the aid of the soldiers who were fully exposed to enemy fire. Eliminating the enemy fighters, Nick provided first aid. He used his own body to shield a wounded soldier from further injury, saving his life. Nick is loyal, not just to his soldiers that day, but to so many friends who now consider him like family. Just look around this room. Nick's relentless. Nick then moved to the roof of the compound, still under enemy fire, and marked his unit's position, signaling to friendly air support. As the last individual off the battlefield, he provided covering fire until the evacuation of all casualties was complete. Nick is relentless, not only in that moment, but also in his current position to improve mental health outcomes for individuals who experience trauma by way of his foundation. The actions that Nick took on October 2nd, 2012 earned him the Medal of Honor and the respect of our great nation. They'll forever be memorialized in the Hall of Heroes, and deservedly so. But beyond the list of accolades and the events that I did that day, I believe you are memorialized for actually who you are. Courageous, loyal, relentless. And I know that you are continuing to demonstrate that outside the walls of this hall throughout your foundation, Nick. We are damn proud to call you a U.S. Army soldier and now a Medal of Honor recipient. God bless you, Nick. God bless your family. This will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Undersecretary of the Army.
Well, good morning and welcome, Mr. Secretary, Chairman, Vice, SMA, all our distinguished guests, our Medal of Honor recipients that are here. Nick, a fair warning. I have it on good authority that as you enter that society, they're going to lump a number of responsibilities on you as the new guy. Mary Jennifer Blake, Frederick Caroline, and most importantly, Major Nick Dockery. I'm privileged to be a part of this tradition, this induction into the Hall of Heroes. The Hall is, as the Vice said, it's a physical place in the Pentagon. Our reverence for its spirit and its legacy is not confined by its walls. Today, that reverence fills this venue that needed to be used because of the number of people here. It's a testament to the immense heroism of Nick and the respect and admiration for the man that we honor today. To appreciate the weight of the moment, we have to consider the origins of the medal. It was established in the crucible of the American Civil War in 1861. It was created with a singular, vital purpose: to recognize actions that go so far beyond the normal call of duty that they defy the basic instinct of self-preservation. It exists because a nation that is built on the ideas of freedom and liberty must, in turn, elevate and immortalize those who are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice to defend it. The medal cannot be won. It is not a prize to be sought. It is earned in the darkest moments of human conflict. It's earned in the mud. It's earned in the dust and in the sheer chaos of combat. The only things that matter during that time are the mission and the soldiers to your left and right. When the chaos descends, our soldiers do not have the luxury to panic. They rely on an unyielding devotion to one another, and they embody the Army values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. These are the bedrock of our profession. But what animates these values? What compels a soldier to organize and lead multiple assaults, to provide aid while under fire, to take grave risks, to marshal air support, and to only leave once every soldier is safe? It is the actual manifestation of the warrior ethos. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit, and I will never leave a fallen comrade. Nick, you have lived these values. Amidst the very worst of war, you responded with the very best of what it means to be an American soldier. The physical representation of that valor, the medal you wear around your neck, it's heavy, but not because of the metal by which it's forged, because of the immense legacy and responsibility from which it's forged, the legacy of those who earned it before you, many of whom didn't survive. And as a living recipient, you bear a unique responsibility. You become an ambassador for hundreds of thousands of men and women who have sacrificed everything for our freedom. You bear the medal not as a monument to a single day, but as a lifelong commitment to the values it represents. And not only does this honor represent your individual valor, but also the men you fought alongside. The shared sacrifice of Chosen Company, 2nd Battalion, 12th Infantry Regiment, and to the enduring spirit of the American soldier. No soldier bears this immense weight alone. Mary, Jennifer, Blake, Frederick, Caroline, thank you. Your sacrifices, your unwavering support have been and always will be the silent force behind that man. The military family owes you a debt of gratitude that we cannot repay. Nick, your name now permanently resides in the Hall of Heroes. Long after we're gone, future generations of soldiers are going to walk the corridors in the Pentagon. They're going to see your name. They're going to read about your actions and your legacy. They'll understand your courage and your place in the lineage of American valor. We, the Army, are incredibly proud of you. We are honored to serve alongside you. Nick, may God bless you. God bless all our men and women in harm's way, and God bless the United States of America. This we will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of War.
Well, good morning. Do you remember what you were doing on October 2nd, 2012? Of course you don't. He does. A few of you do. It was a Tuesday. Maybe you dropped off the kids at school, picked up some groceries, watched a baseball game. We live in a nation of such comforts because of the 1% who offer to go into harm's way, who understand the power of that date in this room. They exchange a civilian life for a foxhole or maybe a faraway ship, or perhaps the rugged mountains of Afghanistan 7,000 miles from here. And in that 1% are those who go above and beyond. Our Medal of Honor recipient, Major Nicholas Dockery. The stories of these Americans begin with taking an oath to the Constitution and asking for God's help. These Americans get up in the dark when others are still sleeping. They live by a creed that says, in part, I am a member of a team. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat, and I will never leave a fallen comrade behind. Lieutenant Dockery was forward deployed to Afghanistan as an infantry rifle platoon leader. And by the time he'd arrived, his platoon had seen months of intense fighting. As the chief mentioned, not an easy environment to walk into. On that day, they were providing security for a meeting between U.S. and Afghan leaders. But there was a gap. The majority of their adjacent units had already left, so they were vulnerable. We know the story of what Lieutenant Dockery did: shielded a fellow soldier from a grenade blast, rescued a sergeant and administered life-saving procedures, led reinforcements to the compound. He protected his comrades. Major Dockery, what you accomplished on that fateful October 2nd is the essence of gallantry in action. The enemy you fought there, and the radical Islamists we still fight today, these are as familiar to us as light against dark. And so on that Tuesday, when most Americans were going about their regular, comfortable daily lives, Lieutenant Dockery faced an ambush that would have broken lesser souls. Outnumbered, cut off, and his comrades being hit from all sides, Dockery stood up. There wasn't time for him to think back on the texts that he had read at West Point. He just summoned the same righteous resolve that carried our forefathers from the Battle of Trenton to the beaches of Normandy. Major Dockery did not fight for glory. He fought because his soldiers needed him. Something much deeper than orders called him to action. The Medal of Honor and this ceremony for his induction into the Hall of Heroes doesn't repay what Nicholas Dockery did there. No medal could. It is given because as a nation, we have to remember, we have to honor, and we have to celebrate. What we honor, what we celebrate in any society is a reflection of what we value. And we spent a lot of time clickbaiting and rage baiting on celebrity culture and gossip, and not enough time on substance, shining a light on the men and women who do the real hard things. Today we celebrate, today we remember, and today we honor. We remember that in the darkest places on earth, Americans, brave Americans, still march forward. As we know from the Gospel of John, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Major Dockery, you have shown us what it means to be a warrior. And for your acts of valor, your nation thanks you. You wear that medal. I have a chance now in this role to meet a handful of incredible Americans who wear that medal. But I once only knew one who was on his way to getting the medal in David Bellavia, who now is a small part of that group. And I remember looking at David and others now that wear it with sheer pride, with nothing but almost bubbling up pride, because you wear that medal on behalf of so many. On behalf of our generation. So many more that didn't do anywhere near what you did, but were a small part of that mission for the men and women to the right and to our left. And so we are proud of you. We are proud of you. We are proud of everyone who wears that medal, and may this nation hold you up as the true representatives of what it means to serve and to sacrifice on behalf of the freedoms that we love. God bless you. And God bless our great republic. Thank you very much.
Undersecretary Oipol, General Laniv, Sergeant Major Weimer, and Major Dockery, please join Secretary Hegseth on stage for the induction ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the presentations. The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3, 1863, has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Second Lieutenant Nicholas Dockery, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. Second Lieutenant Dockery's conspicuous gallantry, extraordinary heroism, and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. A framed Medal of Honor citation and photo is presented by the Undersecretary of the Army to Major Dockery. At this time, the Medal of Honor flag is presented by the Secretary of War. The Medal of Honor plaque will now be unveiled, inducting Major Dockery into the Hall of Heroes. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth, Undersecretary Oipol, General Lenive, Sergeant Major Weimer, and Major Dockery. At this time, please direct your attention to the screen as a soldier unveils Major Dockery's name on the Medal of Honor Garden Wall at the National Museum of the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Major Dockery.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Oipol, General Lenive, Sergeant Major of the Army Weimer, Chairman Kane, General Nordhaus, tremendous amount of distinguished guests and titles, not just in titles, but just in life and character. To my wonderful family that is here, to the men of Chosen Company. I just look around this room. Anybody who enters this service, and I'm going to pause before I start my words here, just reflecting on what shared with others that were on this stage. There's no way to encapsulate the way that it makes you feel to be part of this team and be part of this country. It's not all lost on me what those words mean, and to have you here. There's a lot of places you could be in life right now in this moment, but you're here, and well, thank you. As a young boy, I spent a large part of my childhood in Kansas. If anybody's familiar with that part of the country, tornadoes are a regular part of life. And when I was 16, I remember seeing the aftermath of what a tornado can cause, specifically a place called Hoisington, Kansas. It was about 70 miles from where I was going to school at the time. You see what 200-mile-an-hour winds ripping through a small rural town, what it can do to homes, it levels them. It's the kind of wrath that only God, through nature, can unleash. And in moments, it can undo what took man decades to build. There, 1 minute is your home and your life. The next second, a town is gone. Myself, along with other students from my school, we volunteered to go out there and help. And when we arrived, I saw a movement of people from all over the state rushing in to help. I saw people of all ages helping those who had lost everything they had. They were picking through the rubble, trying to recover photographs or anything salvageable from a life where they had put down roots, where they had raised a family, where they had built a community. And I saw firsthand what we, as one people, can do for one another during a time of crisis, how we can be there for one another, how we can answer the call and render aid and support and care for those who at that time may not be able to help themselves. 5 months later, early one morning in September, I shockingly watched as many as you in this room as 2 commercial airliners crashed into the New York skyline. There, in my second period math class, we all huddled around the television, confused and afraid. We watched buildings crumble. Overnight, the unity of a nation rallying together felt like something that you could physically reach out and touch. The moments in life where I watched what others in this country can do for one another made me start to realize at that age why I love this country so much, and why, like many others from my generation, we felt obligatory to enlist. To me, it was moments like this that we are fighting for. This is what we fight for, those moments. 11 years later, again, early morning, this time in October, my infantry platoon secured the outer cordon of a district center in Tagab District, Kapisa Province, Afghanistan. The parts of the story that aren't highlighted are the parts that live with me the most, in addition to what's been shared. Several key leaders from our task force and their local Afghan counterparts, concluded a meeting on security and stability for the district. And at the conclusion of that meeting, as I consolidated my element on the southern edge of the village, a barrage of machine gun fire and rock-propelled grenades impacted on and around my vehicle, along with many members from my platoon and our Afghan counterparts. And while I still can't confidently articulate as to why my commanding officer directed our element to dismount in the midst of the heaviest of fighting and launch a counterattack to defeat the enemy, I did what was expected of me as a soldier or leader, and I executed that order. The terrain and buildings around us offered no sound line of approach on the enemy to overtake their position. The only avenue that offered any path to successfully closing the distance between us and the enemy was a line of assault directly through the engagement area. I saw a wall adjacent to the enemy's position, and I thought that was the only place where we could have a chance to regain the initiative, overwhelm the enemy with firepower, and force the enemy into retreat or surrender. I knew, along with every other infantryman on the ground, to include our Afghan counterparts, that was the least preferred course of action. More plainly, an attack up the middle was ill-conceived, irresponsibly dangerous, and it allowed the enemy a disproportionate advantage that it offered us no cover. And I could not, in good faith, as a leader, delegate that task to another soldier to lead that assault while I sat from a distance and potentially watched as he would likely, and others, be killed or injured. In the moments that matter the most for leaders, we don't have time to overthink the risk. When we know what has to be done in that moment. I had learned this in Hoisington, Kansas. I had learned this watching what the people in New York City did in the aftermath of 9/11, and all across our country. I learned this lesson before. There are times for choosing and there are times for doing. Now, I was terrified from the very start of that ambush. And I vividly remember signaling for the support by fire to initiate the suppressive fire on the enemy as I began leading that assault. And I was convinced that I would be the first casualty. And the most terrifying part is, if I allowed that to become true, I knew somebody from my platoon would rush to my aid, and they too would become a casualty. But these are the hard decisions we require our leaders to make in this country, in uniform and out. And I was terrified. But I was also confident that it was the only option that had existed in that moment. I never thought that 50 meters of berms and small open terrain could be so far. But if I think hard enough, like anybody who can remember a pivotal moment in their life, I can feel the scorching summer heat radiating off the ground in that hot Afghan sun, the moon dust kicking up with every hard footstep, my boot made impacting the ground. Anybody that knows the taste of that dust when it gets into your mouth. And the rattling from side to side of my Kevlar helmet. As I did my utmost to stay locked on the wall, and I can still feel the sweat dripping down my eyes and that salt getting in and blurring it and stinging. But I didn't stop until I slammed into that wall. And for a brief moment, once I hit the wall, I then thought the only terrifying moment that I could have is if I were to turn around and discover that I was all alone, as if nobody had followed me at all. But then I began to hear, as each member of that assaulting element, running as hard as they possibly could, slam into that wall as well. I looked back to see the totality of us together, prepared to overwhelm the enemy. And I had no idea what would lie ahead of us for the rest of that day. I had no idea what would take place in that compound. But I did know somehow we would not only overtake the enemy, but we would live through that day. And now, having repeatedly returned to combat, I've gone back to that kind of fighting time and time again. And I can tell you I've never gotten over the fear of being shot or killed. And I've never gotten over the fear that I would be responsible for the death of another soldier through my irresponsible decision-making. But I confidently do believe that fear is only crippling when there is no one there to help. And I never again felt the fear that I would ever find myself in a dire position, in a moment of darkness, in an episode of violence or crisis, and that there would be no one around me to help. Certainly not in the United States Army, and not once I returned to America. We as a nation, we've gotten really good at unifying when we feel threatened. Down at our core value, we are all the people of Hoisington. We are the people of New York City, digging through rubble, running up burning stairwells to help people we don't know. When the tornado actually hits, we are magnificent. When tragedy strikes, we know we won't be alone. We display acts of courage under fire that are near impossible to describe, and we find a way to be there for one another. But what troubles me the most is that on ordinary days, and the years in between tragedy and conflict, we seem to let the plot drift. It seems like we wait for the worst to happen before we are reminded what our true core values are, and we realize that we are on the same team, and we have an obligation to respect one another as fellow Americans. As of late, it feels like we're drifting towards something even more ominous. Americans treating fellow Americans like enemies, forgetting what Lincoln, standing on the Capitol steps not far from here, pleaded with his fellow Americans weeks before the onset of the first and only time we truly split, reminding them and us that we are friends, we are not enemies. And again, we have an obligation to maintain the bonds of affection to one another. Most days, I see opinions dismissed, people publicly criticized and dehumanized for caring about their country. And all too often now, in a way that ought to frighten us all, violence has become a reasonable alternative to respectable debate. You and I, many of us, we have seen where the road ends. And we've spent much of our lives in places where violence is the preferred solution. And I believe many of you can agree, and I believe this to my core, it is not the place that any of us would choose to be on purpose. Famously, as the story goes, a woman asked Benjamin Franklin as he was leaving the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia if we had a republic or a monarchy. And he replied, "A republic if you can keep it." We don't like to admit this. Why would we? But our country did break. It broke once, when we decided that conversation was no longer the preferred course of action. You and I know and believe that time and time again we have demonstrated how strong we are united together, and how we feel when we help one another, respect one another, and think of ourselves as Americans first and by choice, rather than embrace this rhetoric of division that has been pushed upon us. Our history is full of people who loved this country, that continue to love this country. This room is a manifestation of that love. I'm one of those people. Even at the times of my life when I could not love myself or allow others to love me, I never once questioned my love for this country. Our nation is filled with great moments of unity. Every day there are moments of respect and compassion shared between one another. But collective unity cannot be limited to the moments in our darkest hours. It cannot be reserved solely for times of crisis. I love my country. And if we all remember this, the best of America is yet to come. Thank you. God bless the United States Army, and God bless the United States of America, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Major Dockery. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join in the singing of the Army song. The words to the Army song can be found in your program.
March along, sing a song with the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. first to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's hi, hi, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
This concludes the Medal of Honor Hall of Heroes induction ceremony. Thank you for attending.